What's up, Inspire Vision Pre-Cal class? Today is week 21, Wednesday. Today we are learning about the inverse of a matrix, and I'm going to teach you how to do this in a calculator. Before I teach you how to do this in a calculator, I need you to write down what the definition of a matrix is. So write down everything on this slide. So our first matrix A is written as this. The inverse, which we could find out in a calculator, which I'll teach you how to do that in a second, we write it as this. A to the -1 power. And you can use that x -1 key to write the -1 power. Now the purpose of this is if I multiply my 2 times 2 matrix, which has 2 rows, 2 columns, times the inverse matrix that also has to be 2 rows, 2 columns, I'm going to get something called the identity matrix. Okay, now the identity matrix just means that it's the equivalent of multiplying something times 1, basically, but it reduces everything down, and that's the reason why we're allowed to do this. Now, the identity matrix is super important because we can use the identity matrix to solve our equations. And then that way, what we did on Monday and Tuesday, we don't have to spend a full page of notes to solve our equations. We only have to do a couple things in our calculator. And that's what I'm going to show you all today. Okay? Because I'm about to make your life a whole lot easier, I want you to have everything on this slide. All right, next. Now, how in the world are we going to find the inverse matrix? The way to find your inverse matrix by hand is to do something called the determinant. Just for now, I want you to write this down. The determinant, if we're doing this by hand, you're going to do A times D minus B times C. So whatever your first position on top left is, you multiply it by the bottom right, and then you subtract the bottom left from the top right after multiplying them together. Then you have to swap your diagonal elements in your diagonal and make this row negative, this diagonal negative, and then you multiply by your matrix. Now again, this is how you do it by hand. But I'm a nice teacher, and I'm going to show you how to do this in a calculator on the next slide. For now, write all this down in your notes. Okay, now, one thing to take note of, you can only do it with square matrices. Now, what a square matrix is just the coefficient matrix. Okay, so, oops, sorry. Y'all are gonna get me if I don't fix that. Alright, now, what that means is what we've been using all week has been the augmented matrix. We are only going to look at the coefficient matrix because that's what makes a square, and we're going to find the inverse of that. So, here's something I want you to write down and then also type in your calculator. I want you to write down this matrix. Now, it's important to count the number of rows and the number of columns. So in your calculator, I need you to hit your matrix key, go over to edit, and type in a 2 times 2 matrix, and then type in these these points into your matrix. Okay, then after you finish typing these points into your matrix, I made it, but yeah, I figured you were just going to show examples.
Yeah, there's one kid that came again this morning.
Yeah, I made it, but I didn't post it.
Okay.
Okay, so we have this in our calculator now. For 2 times 2 matrix. Remember, you have to count the number of rows and number of columns. Now, after you type this in, I want you to quit out of your screen, hit the matrix key again. I'm having issues spelling. And then type in A, and then hit the X -1 key, which will make it look like this in your calculator, with brackets. If you hit enter, you should have this as an answer. If you do not have this, pause the video and let's make sure everybody gets this, because I cannot teach you what's about to happen next if you cannot find the inverse matrix. Now, on your homework, they are going to make these decimals fractions. Like this will say 3/4 and this will say -1/4. So just make sure you make your decimals into fractions so you know how to match this up with your homework. Okay, now, how can we use this to help us? We can use the inverse matrix to help us, and you don't have to write this on the bottom of the screen, to help us solve equations. So, we're going to solve a 3x3 system that normally takes up a lot of space on our paper. So write down this. We have 3x minus 2y plus z equals 9. Then x plus 2y minus 2z equals -5. Then x plus y minus 4z equals -2. Alright, now remember, we can only do the coefficient matrix. So only write down the coefficient matrix. That coefficient matrix is 3, -2, 1, 1, 2, -2, 1, 1, -4. Alright, now something amazing is about to happen. We're going to also put this in our calculator, our answers, but we're going to separate this out. So here's what I need you to do. I need you to type this in as matrix A. So I need you to edit matrix A and say that this is a, remember, count your rows and your columns. So this is a 3 times 3 matrix. Also edit matrix B, count your rows and your columns. So this would be a 3 times 1 matrix. Alright, so spend some time and type this in, because you're going to need practice before you start doing this on your homework. Okay, now, first, we're going to type in our calculator A to the -1. That's the inverse matrix of A. If we type in the inverse matrix of A, you should see something like this. Now, my PowerPoint converted them into fractions, but you should have decimals. It's okay. What I need you to do after you get this inverse matrix, I need you to hit, keep it in your screen, hit multiply, and then type in matrix B right next to it. Or if you wanted to do it all in your calculator all at once, you could do A to the -1 and then times B. Now, if you do all this, I'm going to show you the answer on the next screen. You should have this. This is multiply. This means multiply by B. And you should only see this right here. So after we did our inverse of A times our B, they're just showing you what those values are. You get the solutions to the system. That was pretty easy, wasn't it? Okay, so let's see how we can do our homework like this. Alright, first, let's find the inverse of this. So this matrix, write down -4, -1, 3, 2. If you don't want to write this whole words down, just say to the -1 power, because that means inverse. Okay, so first thing you need to do is count your number of rows and your number of columns. So, and you're going into your matrix key, you're hitting edit, and this time you're going to edit A to be a 2 times 2 matrix. So type in -4, -1, 3, 2. Then quit out of that screen and hit second matrix A to the -1 power. So you're going to want this in your calculator. If you hit enter, you should have 0.4 negative, 0.6 negative 0.2 and 0.8. So you need to convert each one of these into fractions, and if you convert each one of these into fractions, you'll get B. Okay? Another question on your homework that might be giving you a hard time. This one says, what is the value of y? So I'm going to let you write this down. We got -x minus 5z equals 0, x plus 2y minus 4z equals -5, x minus 3y minus z equals -12. Our first goal is to write the coefficient matrix. So we got -1. We don't have a y, so we're going to have to put 0, -5. 1, 2, -4, 1, -3, -1. This is what we're going to edit for matrix A. But if we count our rows and columns, we have a 3 by 3 matrix. We also need to write our solutions as 0, -5, -12. This is going to be B, and this is a 3 times 1 matrix. Okay, so type this in. I'm going to type it in with you. So you're hitting that x -1 key several times to go back into matrix, and then you're going over to edit. Alright, by now you should have both of your matrix typed in. Now, to solve this, I'm going to quit out of my matrix key. I'm going to go to the normal part of the calculator, then go back into the matrix key so I can hit enter on A. So hit enter on A, then type the x -1 key, which makes the A inverse, and then multiply by B. So x matrix key again, go down to B, hit enter. If you did this correctly, you should have -5, 2, and 1. Now this question's asking for y, so y is the 2. Okay? I only have one more example, and then y'all can start tackling your homework questions. Here is the last example. In this example, it's asking about incorrect elements. Incorrect elements, that just means incorrect answers. And since we know an easy way to find our answers, let's put this to practice. Okay, if you haven't already, we need to write the coefficient matrix. Now this is going to be your A, which is a 3 times 3 matrix. We also need to write our solutions, which is going to be B, like this. And this is a 3 times 1 matrix. Okay, give me a second to change these numbers in my calculator. So I'm just arrowing down, I'm not changing, I'm just replacing the numbers. Okay, once you have everything in your calculator, you're doing the inverse matrix of A, like this. Remember to quit first. And then we're going to multiply by the inverse matrix of B. Or sorry, just multiplying by B. If we hit enter right here, we're going to get 8, 4, 3, like this. Okay, now you're probably going to have like 2 or 3 on your homework. It's just a coincidence that this one is all wrong because it says -8, which we have +8, so that's one mistake. -4, we have +4, so that's the second mistake. -3, we have +3, that's the third mistake. So you're going to have an answer between 0, 1, 2, and 3. And however many mistakes they have in this answer choice, that's where you're picking. But there's 3 incorrect answers in this case. Okay, that's it for today. Until tomorrow.